What if I told you that Stephen Miller just went on national television and absolutely destroyed the Democrat Senate candidate in Texas, calling him a bizarre, totally unelectable entity who says the thing he loves most in the world are trans children? That the betting odds now show Republican Ken Paxton pulling away at 56%, while the Democrats' campaign is collapsing under the weight of his own radical statements. And that JD Vance just delivered a devastating breakdown of how the Democrat Party has abandoned every single working-class American who ever believed in it. Stick around, because what happened next will blow your mind. The Democrats are trying to flip Texas blue. Let me say that again so it sinks in. The Democrats, the party that cannot hold its own seats in deep blue states, the party that is losing border counties that voted Democrat for a century, the party that is hemorrhaging voters at a 4-to-1 ratio, that party has decided that its path back to power runs through the state of Texas. And they have chosen a candidate to carry that banner, a man named James Talarico, a man who has publicly stated that God is non-binary, a man who has claimed there are 6 biological sexes, a man who has said the American flag is a complicated symbol, a man who has declared that the southern border should have a giant welcome mat, a man who, when asked to name something he loves that is not family or friends, said on camera that he loves trans children. This is the man the Democrats chose to flip Texas. And this morning, whatever slim chance he had of pulling it off just evaporated. If you believe that the state of Texas is never going to elect a candidate who thinks God is non-binary and that the American flag is complicated and that the border should have a welcome mat, smash that like button right now. Every click sends a message that the people of Texas know exactly who they are, and no amount of far-left radicalism is going to change that. Because by the end of this video, you will understand exactly who James Talarico is and why his own words have made him the most unelectable Senate candidate in Texas history. What Stephen Miller said this morning that has the Democrat campaign in full panic mode. What the betting odds are showing and why Paxton is pulling away. What JD Vance just said about the complete transformation of the Democrat Party that every American needs to hear. And why the Texas Senate race is a perfect microcosm of why the Democrat Party is dying across the entire country. Now let me show you who James Talarico actually is, because the Democrats do not want you to see this. They want you to see the polished campaign ads and the carefully scripted talking points. They do not want you to see the real James Talarico, the one who speaks candidly about what he actually believes when he thinks it will earn him applause from the radical left-wing base that nominated him. This man has been captured on video making statements so extreme, so disconnected from the values of ordinary Texans, that when you hear them compiled together, you will wonder how any political party in its right mind would put him forward as a candidate for the United States Senate in the most conservative, large state in America. He said God is non-binary. Let that sit with you. A Senate candidate in Texas, a state where faith and church and family are woven into the fabric of daily life, told the public that the God they pray to, the God their families have worshiped for generations, is non-binary. He did not say this in a private conversation that was leaked. He said it publicly, proudly, as if it were a credential, as if telling Texans that their God does not conform to their understanding of Scripture would somehow win him votes. He said there are 6 biological sexes, not 2, 6. Every biologist on earth, every textbook in every medical school, every doctor who has ever delivered a baby, all of them recognize 2 biological sexes, male and female. But James Talarico has discovered 4 more. He has not told us what they are, but he is very confident they exist. And he wants to be a United States Senator while holding this belief. He said the American flag is a complicated symbol in Texas, the state where you cannot drive 5 miles in any direction without seeing an American flag flying from a front porch, a pickup truck, a business, a church, a school. The state where patriotism is not a political position, but a way of life. He looked at the flag that Texans have fought and died for and called it complicated. He said the southern border should be like a front porch with a giant welcome mat. In a state that shares over 1,200 miles of border with Mexico. In a state that has spent billions of dollars dealing with the consequences of illegal immigration. In a state where ranchers find dead bodies on their property and fentanyl in their communities. He wants a welcome mat. And when he was asked to name something he loves that is not family or friends, he did not say Texas. He did not say freedom. He did not say his community or his faith or the Constitution or the flag he thinks is complicated. He said he loves trans children. Now, I want you to imagine explaining this candidate to an average Texan. Imagine sitting down with a rancher in West Texas, or an oil worker in the Permian Basin, or a military veteran in San Antonio, or a small business owner in Fort Worth, or a mother in the suburbs of Houston, and telling them that the Democrat Party's candidate for Senate believes God is non-binary, the flag is complicated, the border needs a welcome mat, there are 6 sexes, and the thing he loves most in the world is trans children. They would look at you like you had lost your mind, and they would be right. Because this candidate is so profoundly out of step with the people of Texas that his candidacy is not just doomed, it is an insult to the intelligence of every voter in the state. Now let me tell you what Stephen Miller said this morning, because he articulated what every Texan is thinking in the most devastating terms possible. Miller went on national television and said that Texas is not going to elect this individual, and he was very deliberate about the word individual. He said he could not call Talarico a man because who knows what gender he identifies as. He called him a weird, strange, bizarre, totally unelectable human who says the thing he loves most in the whole world are trans children. And he said Talarico is never, ever, ever going to be the senator from the great state of Texas. 3 evers. Not 1, not 2, 3. Because once was not emphatic enough to capture just how impossible this candidacy is. And Miller was not done. Because after dismantling Talarico personally, he pivoted to dismantling the entire Democrat Party. And what he said should be required listening for every American who cares about the future of this country. Miller said the Democrat Party now has 2 groups, radical extremists and cowards. The extremists are the ones driving the agenda, the ones who actually believe in abolishing ICE and opening the border and forcing trans ideology on children and defunding the police. And the cowards are the ones who know it is wrong, but are too weak or too stupid to stop it. They have allowed the radical fringe to consume the party from the inside out. And now there is nothing left but extremism and cowardice. And then Miller connected the dots between Democrat immigration policy and the real-world consequences that policy produces. He pointed to the Abolish ICE movement and explained what it actually means in practice. When you abolish ICE, you are not making a symbolic statement about immigration reform. You are allowing every drug cartel, every criminal organization, every terrorist network on earth to prey freely on American men, women, and children. He named names. He mentioned Jocelyn Nungare, a precious young girl who was sexually assaulted and killed by 2 illegal alien gang members from Venezuela who were released into the country deliberately by the Biden administration. He said there are thousands of examples just like hers, thousands of American victims whose suffering was caused directly by Democrat immigration policy. And the Democrats know it. They know what their policies produce. They know who gets hurt. They know the cost in American blood. And they do not care because they have become that extreme and that dangerous. And then Miller said something that should be etched into the consciousness of every American who remembers what the Democrat Party used to be. He said the Democrat Party of the 90s, the 80s, the 70s, it is gone. It is gone, and it is not coming back. He is right. And the proof is standing on a stage in Texas telling voters that God is non-binary and the border needs a welcome mat. Now let me show you the betting odds because the numbers confirm what everyone already knows about this race. As of this morning, Republican Ken Paxton holds a 56% chance of winning the Texas Senate race according to the betting markets. Talarico is down at 43%. And those odds were set before Miller's appearance this morning, before the demolition went viral, before millions of Americans saw the campaign ad compiling every insane statement Talarico has ever made. The odds are going to get worse for Talarico, significantly worse. And President Trump has endorsed Paxton. The most powerful endorsement in Republican politics is behind the Republican candidate, in a state where Trump won by double digits, in a state where 14 of 18 border counties just flipped red, in a state with a massive and growing Republican voter registration advantage. The Democrat Party looked at all of those factors and decided to nominate a candidate who thinks there are 6 biological sexes. This is not a competitive race. This is a mismatch so severe that it raises the question of whether the Democrats even want to win Texas or whether they are simply using the race as a fundraising vehicle to extract money from coastal liberals who do not know any better. Now, let me tell you what JD Vance said this morning, because the vice president added a layer of analysis that gets to the heart of why the Democrat Party keeps making these catastrophic decisions. Vance said his genuine hope after the 2024 election was that the Democrats would learn a lesson, that they would look at the results and conclude that maybe they should stop being so crazy, that maybe the American people had sent a message and the party should listen to it. Moderate, adjust, return to something resembling the center. Instead, the opposite happened. The lesson the Democrats learned from the 2024 election was to lean even harder into the most radical fringes of their party. They doubled down, tripled down, quadrupled down on every position that got them destroyed at the ballot box. And now they are nominating Senate candidates who say God is non-binary in the most conservative large state in the union. And then Vance said something personal, something that resonated with millions of Americans who grew up in Democrat households. He said he was raised by patriotic, Christian, blue-collar Democrats who loved this country. They were not Republicans. They were proud Democrats. The kind of Democrats who worked with their hands, went to church on Sunday, flew the flag on the 4th of July, and believed in borders and law and order and common sense. And those Democrats, Vance said, no longer have a place in their own party, at least not among the elected senior leadership ranks. The party that his parents belong to does not exist anymore. It has been replaced by something that those patriotic blue-collar Democrats would not recognize and would not support. And then Vance made a point about immigration that cuts through every piece of Democrat rhetoric on the subject. He said he always finds it interesting when socialists tell him they stand up for working people, but then want to abolish ICE. Because abolishing ICE means a flood of low-wage immigrants competing directly against the working people, black, white, and brown, of the United States. You do not care about working people if you refuse to enforce the border. Stop pretending that you do. That is the argument that is reshaping American politics. That is the argument that flipped 14 of 18 Texas border counties. That is the argument that is driving the 4-to-1 defection ratio. That is the argument that turned the Teamsters into Republican endorsers. Working-class Americans of every race and background have realized that the Democrat Party's immigration policy is a direct attack on their wages, their job security, their housing costs, and their quality of life. Every job taken by an illegal alien is a job that does not go to an American. There are not infinite jobs. The supply is finite. And when you flood the labor market with millions of illegal workers, the people who get hurt are not the wealthy elites who hire them. The people who get hurt are the working class Americans who have to compete with them for lower wages, with fewer protections, in industries that are already barely paying a living wage. That is basic economics, supply and demand. Every first semester economics student learns it. And the Democrat Party pretends it does not exist because acknowledging it would require them to admit that their open border policies are the single greatest assault on the American working class in a generation. Vance understands this. Trump understands this. The voters of Texas understand this. The border counties understand this. The Teamsters understand this. The only people who do not understand this are the Democrats and the useful idiots who still support them. Now, let me bring all of this together because the Texas Senate race is not just a Texas story. It is a mirror reflecting the complete collapse of the Democrat Party as a serious political institution. The Democrats chose Talarico as their candidate because he represents what their party has become. He is not an outlier. He is not a fringe figure who somehow snuck through the primary. He is the most authentic expression of the modern Democrat Party. His positions on God, on gender, on the flag, on the border, on trans children, these are not controversial positions within the Democrat Party. These are mainstream Democrat positions. The base loves him. The activist class loves him. The donor class loves him. The media loves him. He checks every single box that the Democrat Party requires of its candidates in 2026. And he is unelectable. Not just in Texas, in any state where working class Americans still have a voice, in any state where faith still matters, in any state where the flag is respected, in any state where parents have the final say over what their children are taught, in any state where the border is not an abstract concept, but a daily reality. The Democrat Party has become a party that can only win in places where the population has been so thoroughly insulated from the consequences of progressive governance that they do not yet realize how destructive it is. Coastal enclaves, government employee suburbs, university towns, the shrinking islands of blue that exist because they are shielded from the crime, the immigration, the fiscal collapse, and the cultural decay that Democrat policies produce everywhere else. And even those islands are shrinking. The early vote numbers in California show Republicans surging. New York is losing population by the millions. Illinois is hemorrhaging businesses. Hawaii just lost a state representative to the Republicans because the Democrats let Lahaina burn and did nothing. The party of FDR and JFK is gone. What remains is a party that nominates candidates who say God is non-binary in the most Christian state in America. A party that tells border communities to put out a welcome mat for the cartels. A party that celebrates trans children while ignoring the children killed by illegal aliens it invited into the country. A party of radical extremists and the cowards who enable them. Stephen Miller called it. JD Vance confirmed it. The betting odds prove it. And the voters of Texas are going to deliver the final verdict in November. Ken Paxton is going to win this Senate race. Not because he ran a perfect campaign. Not because he outspent his opponent. Not because the political environment happened to favor him. He is going to win because the Democrat Party sent a candidate to Texas who fundamentally despises everything that Texas stands for. And the people of Texas are going to respond the only way they know how. By sending a message so loud and so clear that it reverberates across the entire nation. A message that says, this is Texas. We know who we are. We know what we believe. And we reject everything your party has become. The color of Texas is red. It has always been red, and after November, it is going to be redder than ever. Don't stop here. The Texas Senate race is just one of dozens of critical races heading into the midterms, and new developments are breaking every single day. Click on the next video and join us as we continue to cover every race, every poll, every defection, and every sign that the Democrat Party is collapsing faster than anyone predicted.